time for the Ron and Brian podcast. Get ready to fill your ears with the latest news, politics, current events, and whatever else we feel like talking about this week. And now, your hosts, Ron and Brian.
And here we are, our very first episode on Sunday night now, episode 159. But as we have mentioned a few times this week, we have now moved from Thursday nights to this Sunday slot, Sunday fun day, Sunday sermon, whatever you would like to call it. Brian, how are you doing this Sunday night?
I'm doing great. I really like this Sunday night slot. I feel, I woke up this morning as I do every Sunday, went to church. I go to a Baptist church.
Makes sense.
It's they don't put our air conditioning on. Let's throw that out there right off the bat.
Right.
Obviously, I'm in my Sunday best. Me and Grandma right afterwards, we go over to Red Lobster. She's in her Sunday best, big tall hat.
Right.
I always get the king crab legs, and then we both of us decide to treat the server like garbage. It's a little Sunday tradition we have. I like to scream that they're not bringing me unlimited salad and breadsticks, and just ignoring all their references to "we're not Olive Garden, sir." And it just gets worse and worse. Granny likes to steal everything off the plate after she's done. Forks go missing, plates gone. It's a wonderful time.
All right.
Ron?
Yes.
How are you doing?
I'm doing good. It was a little weird not doing the show on Thursday night. And then I had to keep reminding myself that we had this to do. But we're prepped. We're vaxxed. We're waxed. We are ready to go. So let's get into this with the usual drink of the week.
Drink of the week.
Na zdrowie.
Salud.
Drink of the week. Pleasure.
Fools. Drink of the week. Drink of the week.
All right, Brian, what did you bring to the table for this Sunday night beverage?
It's Sunday, it's summer, and it's strawberry Hefeweizen. Nice. Coming from our dear friends over at Licking Hole Creek Craft Brewery in Goochland, Virginia. You can't make this shit up right now. Is the Virginia Strawberry Hefeweizen, coming in at 5.5 ABV. It's a light, refreshing beer for the beginning of summer, grown and brewed in their own brewery, as I said, in Goochland, Virginia. It's a traditional German Hefeweizen run with the freshest local ingredients. Hundreds of pounds of wheat are harvested right there on their farm. They then say goodbye and they load it with yeast-forward wheat beer with fresh strawberries.
Take a sip there. As we remind everybody, like you said, it's summertime.
Hot podcaster summer.
What do you think of that beer, my friend?
It's not bad. The strawberry is rather subtle. The flavor profile is rather subtle. I have two. I will be drinking another one, probably either later on during the show or during the After Dark over on Patreon. Would I get it again? Probably not. All
right. Sounds good. Tonight, Brian, what I bring to the table from the cellar fridge, this is from Good Life Brewing out in Bend, Oregon. This is in conjunction with G Love. This is G Love's special sauce IPA called The Juice. I like cold beverage. Stick it in the fridge, Brian. This is clocking in at a 6.8%.
Oh, looks hazy.
Oh, it's delicious.
Oh, fucked up. I fucked up with the strawberry Hefeweizen.
It is delicious. I also have a second can of that. So who knows? Maybe I will go back into the fridge for our After Dark, which again, if you are a member of our Patreon, you get access to the live Ron and Brian After Dark, which has also moved to Sunday nights at 9:30 p.m. Eastern time. And if you want to become a patron, just go to ronandbrianpodcast.com and click in the upper right-hand corner, and you can join. Bronze level or higher gets access to the live After Dark at 9:30.
And not only that, but you also get swag, baseball caps, stickers, refrigerator magnets, car magnets. Also, if you don't want to stick them on your refrigerator, they'll probably get taken right off. They're such a hot topic.
Right.
Also, we've got coasters. What are the other treats that we have? Oh, you also get to name the drink of the week bit.
That's right.
Once you get to depending on what the levels are. So it's a way for us to somewhat offset the costs of this show. Things aren't free anymore. They used to be, but now due to inflation and the current presidential administration, things start costing, and we're not happy about it. So join the Patreon, throw us a couple bucks. We really appreciate it. It helps us make the show better.
I mean, if there's two things that have jumped up in cost, thanks to the Biden administration, it's lumber and podcasting. Don't know how the two are affiliated, but it's just how it goes sometimes. In the meantime, it's This Week in Racism.
This
Week
in
racism.
Racism.
Yes, Brian, you seem to have a question.
I see a comment that just popped up. From our friend William Esquire. He mentions the slow jam. He had signed up for Diamond Level, correct? And we owed him a slow jam.
Well, you specifically owed him a slow jam.
And this slow jam was never done.
No, most definitely was not done. So you do need to figure out what he would like slow jam.
Shame on me. Shame on me. I'm going to reach out to William. And obviously making sure he's still at that dollar level in terms of the Patreon sponsorships. I'm confirming that he is at that level. We will do a slow jam next week.
All right.
He has my word.
Put a pin in that. And let's get to racism. Brian, an unprecedented 3 pages of racism this week at a 10 font. I tried to keep it to 2, and I just couldn't read it at all. So much racism. And you think maybe it's because, hey, it's been a few extra days since we did it. No, most of this was on the list by Thursday. And we were actually able to kind of segment this into a few different categories. We're going to start off with the very rare volleyball racism, where a former University of Oklahoma volleyball player is suing the school and her ex-coaches, alleging she was labeled a racist because of her politically conservative views. Kylie McLaughlin claimed she was frozen out of the team last summer because her beliefs didn't mesh with those of her coaches and teammates, such as disagreeing with woke culture and critical race theory. Her case is pending in Oklahoma City federal court. Next, a Serbian volleyball player has apologized for making a racist gesture during a game against Thailand. During a recent match against the Thai women's team in Italy, player Sanja Đurđević stretched both eyelids apart after winning a point. Đurđević apologized via Instagram while also saying, "I only wanted to address my teammates with the message, now we will start playing defense like them. I didn't mean to disrespect anyone." The apology did not prevent her from being suspended for 2 matches, while the Serbian team was fined the equivalent of 22,000 American dollars, which will be donated to advocacy groups. Our next section we're calling Schools Are Horrible Places. The head football coach at a Ohio high school and 6 other coaches there have been ousted after a football player said he was forced to eat pork in violation of his religious beliefs for missing a voluntary workout. The Canton City Board of Education voted unanimously Thursday to not renew the coaching contracts of Canton McKinley head football coach Marcus Watley, 2 of his assistants, and an assistant baseball coach. With the same vote, the board also deemed 3 other assistant football coaches as ineligible for future coaching positions. Asheboro High School in North Carolina went viral this week after denying a diploma to Ever Lopez for wearing a Mexican flag over his gown while walking across the stage. Rather than receiving his diploma after the ceremony, Principal Penny Crooks had Ever and his family escorted out of the school by 4 police officers. The school eventually gave Lopez his diploma, saying that the issue occurred because he had violated dress code rules for the ceremony. The school is now reevaluating that policy for future classes. Right here in my own town, Cheltenham School Board President Joel Fishbein issued an apology for a portion of his speech at the Cheltenham High School commencement where he implied that Frederick Douglass had a relatively easy life as a house slave. The school district posted edited and unedited versions of the speech on YouTube with the disclaimer that Fishbein comments, quote, reflects a whitewashed account of the systematic violent subjugation of generations of African Americans and denigrates and trivializes the horrors, trials, and tribulations of the enslaved, as well as in those who were able to escape enslavement. The Georgia State Board of Education voted 11-2 to pass a resolution that denounces critical race theory and declares, among other things, that, quote, the United States of America is not a racist country and that the state of Georgia is not a racist state. This is after Georgia Governor Brian Kemp last month tweeted a letter he wrote to the board calling critical race theory a divisive and anti-American agenda. Not to be outdone as a truly horrible state, the Florida Board of Education approved an amendment that Governor Ron DeSantis advanced in order to ban teaching critical race theory or any part of the New York Times 1619 Project in state schools. Spokane Public Schools is investigating an incident where a teacher at Sacagawea Middle School gave an in-class assignment to pick and clean cotton, causing a great amount of discomfort for the Black students in the class. When a parent of two of the students called to voice her concerns, the only resolution offered by an assistant principal was the offer to remove the Black students from the class. The principal of a Colorado high school where three students reenacted the killing of George Floyd has resigned. Rachel Ayers stepped down Monday from Meade High School in Longmont, where three students, including one in blackface, acted out the police custody murder of Floyd, with one student kneeling on another's neck. The students, who were not publicly identified, were reportedly suspended from school for 5 days. And a Mississippi high school's decision to honor a co-valedictorian and a co-salutatorian alongside two other students that had already received the titles has sparked controversy and allegations of racism. Initially, two Black students, Ikeria Washington and Layla Temple, were named valedictorian and salutatorian of their class at West Point High School in West Point, Mississippi, during the presentation of senior awards. But after a white parent contacted the school and questioned officials after whether they followed the guidelines outlined in the school handbook for selecting the top students, two other students, both white, were named co-valedictorian and co-salutatorian on the morning of graduation. This next segment we're calling It's About Damn Time. Nevada Governor Steve Sisolak signed into law Assembly Bill 88, which prohibits using a name, logo, mascot, song, or other identifier associated with the Confederate States of America or a federally recognized Indian tribe, and orders the State Board on Geographic Names to recommend changes for any geographic feature that has a name which is considered racially discriminatory. It also prohibits the use of what's called sundown town sirens, which is directed at the town of Minden, where a fire siren blast at 6 p.m. every night has been associated with a racist law dating to 1917 that ordered members of the Washoe tribe out of town by 6:30. Minden continued to blast this siren at 6 o'clock every night, despite that ordinance having been eliminated all the way back in 1974. It only took 4 years and a race riot, but the City Council of Charlottesville, Virginia, has finally voted to remove two Confederate statues from its downtown parks. The statues of Robert E. Lee and Stonewall Jackson will be removed after a state-required 30-day window for the state to offer them to any museum, historical society, government, or military battlefield. And finally, Chris Harrison has officially left The Bachelor franchise after having stepped away previously following his response to the racial controversy that came from the actions of former contestant Rachel Kirkconnell. Harrison should be okay, having reportedly negotiated an 8-figure settlement in exchange for his silence in leaving the show. And then we're just going to just basic white people being horrible racism. Two homes in Ann Arbor, Michigan were recently vandalized due to the Black Lives Matter signs the homes had on display. Police believe both homes were hit by the same vandal based on having the same message, White Lives Matter More, N-word, with the word matter misspelled in both messages. Last month, Black attorney Milton Rayford spoke out against systematic racism in Allegheny County's legal system during a trial in Pennsylvania, and then spoke at length about what he felt was systemic racism in Pittsburgh and the lack of meaningful reform efforts when it comes to criminal justice reform. White District Attorney Stephen Zappala Jr. responded to Rayford's concerns by sending out an email to all of his prosecutors instructing them not to offer any future plea deals to Rayford or any of his clients. Zappala has since walked those comments back and started to offer plea deals again, but many are now calling for his resignation. A bike courier delivering medication says he was racially profiled by a homeowner in San Francisco's Pacific Heights neighborhood in a tense exchange captured on a viral video. Chavez said he was making Narcan deliveries on his bicycle to a rehab facility back in April when a white resident identified as Eli Horowitz, an orthopedic surgeon from Birmingham, harassed him, accused him of stealing from the neighborhood, and threatened to call the cops. Jasmine Bonnet, owner of Blossom Bathhouse in Sacramento, was walking to her car when an apparently deranged white man verbally assaulted her and then tried to force his way into her store. The man, who police identified as Ross Wolfer, broke the windows of her shop while yelling racial slurs at her. Wolfer was booked on felony charges of burglary, vandalism, and assault, along with 3 misdemeanors. Christine Longo faced trial this week for her harassment of a Black family at a Rhode Island restaurant last summer. Longo failed to have hate crime charges against her thrown out at the beginning of the trial, but thankfully for her, Judge James Carullo decided that saying "blacks don't belong here" wasn't racially motivated. She was convicted of disorderly conduct and sentenced to 6 months of probation and 50 hours of community service. A Muslim family was attacked while on an evening walk in London, Ontario, when a man in a pickup truck ran into 5 family members, killing 4 of them. Police arrested 20-year-old Nathaniel Veltman, who was allegedly wearing a bulletproof vest and military-style helmet. He has been charged with 4 counts of first-degree murder and 1 count of attempted murder, while police attempt to determine the reason behind the attack. One UK woman was fired and another suspended after they engaged in a racist conversation on Twitter about Prince Harry and Meghan Markle's new daughter. Julie Burchill was fired from her job as a columnist with Telegraph for her comments, such as saying that the royal couple should have named their daughter Georgina Floydina, with Joanne Toach being suspended from her company, Family Law Cafe, for her responses, which included asking, "Don't black names matter?" and wondering why the baby hadn't been named Dopra. Burchill had been involved in another controversy last year due to her comments to a Muslim journalist about the Prophet Muhammad. A white man from Cincinnati went on a drunken racist tirade against his Black Uber driver, telling him, quote, "I hope to hell you get shot, N-word." Michael Winterman threatened the driver, an immigrant from Chad in Central Africa, during a ride when the GPS system stopped working. Winterman proceeded to vandalize the driver's car as well as assaulting the driver while telling him to remember, "You are Black and I am white." Winterman was arrested on charges of ethnic intimidation, criminal damaging, and disorderly conduct. The Lada Plantation Center in Huntersville, North Carolina, came under fire this week after they posted an event on their Facebook page that was to take place on Juneteenth, promising to tell the story of white refugees and defeated Confederate soldiers. The depiction of the event said attendees would hear from a slave owner who had been chased out of his house by Yankees and former slaves who were now living high on the hog. Quote, "White refugees have been displaced and have a story to tell as well," it said. "Confederate soldiers will be heading home to express their feelings about the downfall of the Confederacy." The event was canceled after public outcry, and Mecklenburg County government announced that they will be looking at its contract with the facility vendor. In addition, the town of Huntersville released a statement saying that it will be withholding its annual contribution to the center pending an investigation into the event. And a woman was caught on video vandalizing a monument on Mount Tabor in Portland, Oregon, honoring the only Black person who traveled across North America on the Lewis and Clark expedition. The Statue of York, who was an enslaved member of the Lewis and Clark Expedition Corps of Discovery, appeared back in February. The vandal, identified by police as Jeanette Grode, is seen on video defacing the monument with purple spray paint while shouting at the person taking the video that she has always, quote, "been prejudiced against Black and Hispanic people." Officers contacted Grode last week and issued a citation for criminal mischief, abuse of venerated objects, and unlawful applying of graffiti and vandalism. And one last thing, we've got a racism rewind.
Racism rewind.
All right, last week we spoke about how retired Army Lieutenant Colonel Barnard Kemper had his microphone cut off during a speech he was giving at a Memorial Day event in Hudson, Ohio. After that story went viral, the American Legion Department of Ohio suspended the charter of the Hudson American Legion Post that organized the event. Jim Garrison, the leader of the Hudson Post, resigned his position, and the ALD of Ohio has also requested that he resign his membership as well. Cindy Suchan, the second organizer of the event, also resigned her position as the president of the Hudson American Legion Auxiliary. And Brian, that is the week in racism. A little longer than 10 minutes. I think I came in around 13 minutes this week.
You came in around 13 minutes. We had spoken and said that 10 minutes was your allowable window. You said to me when we were starting this podcast, Brian, let me have my racism of the week. Bad behavior in this world needs to be spotlighted. I said you could have it, but 13 minutes.
Well, we will try and get back to
13:06.
13:06. Thank you, Janelle. 13 minutes, 6 seconds. I guess technically an extra minute for each extra day of racism we had here.
It's like the show's done. We're done. We're over. This episode. We're already done with the episode. There's nothing left to talk about.
We're not done yet, Brian, because we also have Beef of the Week.
Ron and Brian's Beef of the Week.
Brian, what's bugging you this week?
I'm not sure exactly where to place the blame, but I'll tell you what's bothering me.
Okay.
Earlier this week, Bruce Springsteen announced that he was going to be reopening Broadway.
Yes.
In about a week or two, bringing back his one-man show at the Walter Kerr Theater.
Sounds about right.
I don't know. And I said to myself, I didn't see it when the show was coming around the first time. I bought tickets. I sold them for a small profit, not as much as I thought I was going to make, but that's neither here nor there. So I was like, you know what? I'm gonna try for tickets. I want to see Springsteen do his show. He announced a total of 30 shows.
Okay.
He's going to do a couple weeks in June into July, and then August into September. So right off the bat, the only place to buy tickets are SeatGeek.com,
right?
Which is a ticket reseller right off the bat. So I already am sitting there wondering why on earth are we throwing our business to SeatGeek? Anyway, to make a long story short, I pick a day. I didn't want to pick a Thursday, Friday, Saturday, or Sunday because I figured that those were going to be highly sought after.
Those are the tickets.
Yeah, so I think I tried a Tuesday. I clicked best available, and I was offered 2 tickets in row F, Orchestra Center.
Nice.
Take a guess how much each ticket was.
I mean, Bruce Springsteen's a man of the people. You're going for a Tuesday night show. I'm saying you're probably in the ballpark of like $150, $175 a seat.
Each ticket, $850 before fees.
Wow. I mean, to be fair, I did buy tickets to Springsteen back when he was initially doing this run, and those seats were going for $750 a ticket back then. But not a reason behind it. It's still a ridiculous amount of money.
Still an outrageous number. Seats up in the mezzanine were $500. I did not buy them.
Fair enough. Nor should you have. That'll show.
Yeah, I almost bought the $850 seats to put on and try to sell them. And then I said, with my luck, they will not be sold. and I will be out of $2,000, which I cannot afford. So I just sat there and said, you know what? Fuck Bruce Springsteen and these outrageous prices, even though I love Bruce Springsteen's music. Not his, whoever his talent agent or booking agent, whatever.
Right.
That was my beef of the week.
All right. That seems fair. I'll allow that.
Ron?
Yes.
What's bothering you?
Well, Brian, I'm going to do something. We've been doing this for 3+ years. I'm going to do something a little unprecedented this week. And I am not going to have a beef of the week this week. And I'm going to tell you exactly why. As I mentioned earlier this year, my mother was diagnosed with cancer, and she has gone through her radiation treatment. She is halfway through her chemo treatment. So they did a bunch of follow-up tests and scans on this past Thursday. And the doctors let us know that the chemotherapy is doing exactly what they hoped it would. All of her tumors are shrinking. They're continuing her on her current chemo path. She'll finish up in a couple of months, and they'll test everything again. But they said everything looks about as good as we can expect. So I feel it would be remiss of me to have some sort of beef this week after having having that good news earlier this week. So I hope you will indulge me.
You know what? Normally I would say no, but because we're talking about your mom and that she's doing well, yes, absolutely, Ron. You get a waiver. You get a waiver this week on Beef of the Week.
I will. I want to reassure our listeners that next week I will be back on my bullshit, and I will be my usual petty self, and I will have some probably minor, insignificant beef next week, but not this week.
Good. Well, I'm happy to hear about your mom.
Thank you. Shout out to Janelle, noticing my fresh new haircut that I got yesterday. So we're trying something, my fresh fade, trying something a little bit different. Shout out to Carlos at the Hush Salon in Philadelphia. I've been cutting my hair for a number of years now. We decided to try something a little different. So thank you for noticing.
What is that? A 3 on the side?
I think you went 3 or 2, a little shorter than I would have thought, but
much shorter. I like it. I like it a lot.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Well, the thing is that you have such a luscious head of hair.
I do.
That I feel like you can explore with it. You can test things out. You can experiment with different looks. Whereas there are certain people who are just literally, doing everything they can to try to hold on to masquerade that they have more than one would think. I think it's a good look for you.
And I know it aggravates you, my lack of gray hair.
I refuse to believe it, and I know I'm gullible, but I just cannot imagine. Look at this. This is all grays.
I mean, you're technically younger than I am.
I am. It's not technically. I'm literally younger than you, and you're telling me you do not have one gray hair there.
I do not. Not a single one. I get gray in my beard when it grows in a little bit. I get a little gray on the chin. But knock on wood, nothing up top yet.
Kudos to you.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. What do we have? My God, our regular segments took about half of the show already. So let's get into what news stories we're going to cover.
You want to start off with a couple coronavirus? I mean, I feel like the pandemic is over.
It's pretty much done with. I mean, I think everyone for the most part, I think, is vaccinated. The kids aren't vaccinated yet, but it's okay. They don't have the receptors.
We don't care about them anyway,
right? But we are still getting stories from time to time about the coronavirus. We're going to go down to Miami because Florida has done such a fantastic job handling it throughout the entire pandemic. And they hosted a Bitcoin conference last week in Miami. It drew about 12,000 people, seeing everyone from Twitter CEO Jack Dorsey to the mayor of Miami, taking place at the Mena Wynwood Convention Center. A number of parties going on, no masks required, no vaccine requirements. And shockingly, a number of people are now saying they caught COVID from this conference.
Who's still getting COVID at this point? Now, I get it. Right now, the only people that should be catching COVID are breakthrough cases.
You would think. People
who got vaccinated and
yeah, exactly.
Statistically, it's going to happen. But people who are unvaccinated that are just throwing caution to the wind, you know what? Tough shit.
An employee at crypto website Block tweeted that everyone I hung out with in Miami got COVID. Another one tweeted, looks like I'm joining the BTC COVID list. So I don't think they have confirmed numbers as of yet. But again, still not shocking when you go to a big event. If you're not masking and you're not vaccinated, odds are pretty good that you're still going to get COVID.
And didn't I read that Florida's no longer tracking, like keeping numbers of COVID cases?
I mean, I would argue that they weren't really tracking even when they were tracking.
Well, I think they were lying and masking numbers.
Well, yes, they were, without a doubt. If you're not vaccinated, you can certainly get a stolen COVID-19 vaccine card. A man who was hired as a contract worker at a coronavirus vaccination site in Southern California was charged Wednesday after he stole allegedly more than 500 blank vaccine record cards from the site. Muhammad Rauf Ahmed, 45 of Las Vegas, faces 1 count of grand theft.
Now, why isn't he being charged with 500 counts?
I guess that I don't know. I guess
it bothers me.
One container. I don't know.
And I know this is going to be a bad example, but I feel compelled to say it. But Derek Chauvin killed one person, George Floyd, murdered, and he got charged with like 11 different crimes. This guy stole 500 cards and gets charged with 1. I don't understand our judicial system.
I don't even know how to respond to that. I just literally don't know how to respond to that. But
I'm not saying Derek Chauvin did not deserve 11 charges. I'm not saying he doesn't deserve to die. What I'm saying is the fact that I don't understand why this guy doesn't get hit with 500 cases of theft.
I mean, maybe it's the way the law is set in California. Tough to say.
Fuck California.
All right, fair enough. On a good note from this pandemic is scientists are now saying that 2 common strains of the seasonal flu have seemingly vanished from circulation, likely due to the public health measures like mask wearing and staying in place and not going out during the pandemic. It's going to take some time to confirm that these strains have actually disappeared. But on the plus side, it should make developing next season's flu shot that much easier.
Okay.
So
that would be great.
So and I know you were fans of these viruses, Brian. This was the influenza.
I was a huge fan.
The influenza B virus belonging to the Yamagata lineage, and the influenza A H3N2 virus, which I believe you have tattooed on your ass because you're such a fan. Those
I saw that one in the theaters.
What's that?
I said I saw that one in the theater.
You saw that one in the theaters. Fast and the Furious, H3N2. Good point. Elisa hops in with the comment. Mask wearing is definitely going to be a norm during flu season for us. Listen, I still, when I go to the store, I'm carrying my hand sanitizer with me. I don't. People are disgusting. I think the net of the pandemic is A, most people don't care about other people, and B, right. People are disgusting.
Now, I have a question. What is your mask wearing policy nowadays? Because last time I was down there, you guys were doing the mask as soon as you left the house.
So it's I always have a mask on me still, and it depends on the policy of the place that I'm going into. Even though mask restrictions have been lifted throughout Pennsylvania, Philadelphia lifted them on Friday. Private businesses, some are still asking that you mask up regardless if you're vaccinated or not vaccinated. Others are fine with it. So, I depends on the business, and it also depends on what everybody's doing. Like if you're in there and everybody's is masked, I almost feel like, all right, I should put my mask on.
Okay, that's reasonable.
I mean, what are you doing there in New York?
Wearing masks outside, not wearing a mask when I'm walking down the street, wearing a mask on the subway, wearing a mask when I go inside, like a store or any other type of business.
Right. I mean, I still, like today, I was walking and I didn't have a mask on, and I actually walked past someone without a mask on.
Right.
And it was the first time that I didn't like cross the street just to be, because I just steer clear from people over the last year and a half.
Yeah, but you always preferred that.
I mean, for those of us that just hate people, it's just easier that way.
Okay.
Question from William Esquire. What is the rule about wearing a mask while watching Brockmire, Brian?
What's Brockmire?
Exactly. What else do we have here?
No, what is it? Is that like an asteroid shower? Is that when Mercury is in retrograde and the moon is full?
I thought you were going to break into the age of Aquarius there for a minute.
And peace will live on the highland.
Anyway, so this was a great story. I loved seeing this week. Hundreds of criminal gang members around the world were tricked into using a phone encryption app operated by the FBI to plan their crimes, leading to their arrests. This is a program that's being referred to as Operation Trojan Shield. It took place around the country: Australia, New Zealand, Europe, America. I mean, it was kudos to the FBI. They developed this app that they made it seem like it was for people to connect, in an encrypted way to avoid, being caught by the authorities. And they were planning, drug deals. They were planning weapon deals. They were also apparently 21 murder plots were being planned via this app, including one that would have targeted a family of 5. And so authorities have credited the scheme with the arrest of more than 250 individuals, and the seizure of more than 100 illegal firearms, as well as millions of dollars in cash, drugs, and other assets. Arrests were made in 18 countries, including the US, the UK, Germany, the Netherlands, and Sweden.
Wow. I would say this is one of those moments where you actually are proud of your federal government. Yes. I mean, the idea that they could, and I think what had happened was that they had taken down a app that was being used by criminals. And what they basically did was they were able to arrest the people that were running the app. They were able to get the code for the app and whatnot. And what they did was they basically rebranded it under a different name, installed it on phones, handed these phones out to informants with the instructions that the informants were to tell their other criminal colleagues to use this app. And they did.
Yeah.
Fucking genius.
And now, I mean, not only that, not only have a lot of these people been arrested, but there are people that haven't been arrested that are high up in, the crime community that are now, in danger of their lives because they recommended to other people, so many other people, to use this app. One is, according to Australian media, a fugitive drug trafficker by the name Hakan Ayak.
He's good. I have his rookie card.
Yeah, I know you're a fan. But he is apparently in hiding right now because he had recommended this to so many people to use, and now these people have been arrested.
Wow, a feel-good story for the ages.
Yes. I mean, this is amazing. Again, this is going to Australian media. There was one local motorcycle gang chapter that they discovered they were netting $20 million a month by peddling drugs into the country.
Wow.
Yeah. Big numbers. That is wild, wacky.
That is insane.
What else we have this week, Brian?
Unbelievable. There was an article that I thought we were going to talk about. Oh, you know what? We've been talking about so many shitty things going on. Let's try and talk about something that actually makes me feel better. A Texas bakery.
Positivity to the podcast.
We know Texas is everything is bigger in Texas, especially their hatred of members of the LGBTQ plus community.
Mm-hmm. You got it.
Talk about pressure. So there was a bakery that on June 1st put on Instagram photo of rainbow colored cookies in the shape of a heart, and they left a message. Do you have that message or no?
The message said more love, less hate, and happy Pride to all of our LGBTQ friends. And
Texas showed up in such a way that makes us all very proud. How did Texas handle this one?
Well, first, they were, pretty much shit on by people on the internet. There was at least one person that canceled a previously placed order. A number of people unfollowed their social media accounts in protest. They were receiving negative emails, social media posts, phone calls, death threats, the whole 9 yards. So it sounds like a bad story, but then another group of people within Texas banded together and turned it positive, Brian. And how did
love is love is love.
How did they make it positive, Brian?
Bought a lot of cookies.
So yes, basically, after the Pride themed post, a day after, the bakery shared an update talking about, how hard it had been, how they had lost a significant amount of followers. They received a lot of hateful messages. And so because of that, the next day they opened up to a line of customers around the block. On Saturday, they posted that they were completely sold out of baked goods. All this attention on our small business is very humbling, they wrote in a Facebook post. In the last 11 years we've been open, we've never seen anything quite like this. They added that the last customers of the day, since they had no product left to sell, decided to instead donate money to local causes.
That's awesome. You know what? That is the feel-good story that we've needed, especially after 13 straight minutes of atrocious racism.
That's fair. That's fair. Can we go back to horrible stories now?
Yeah.
You know what that noise sounds like?
Hot podcaster summer.
We've only played that twice so far this episode. And
I would love to know what soundboard you pulled that moan off of.
That's me.
Like, were you Googling moans?
I channeled how I feel when I think of you, and that's the noise that came out.
See, that's the noise I think I would make if somebody plunged a life-size Vin Diesel dildo up my ass. Like, I think that's the noise I would make. I think it would be something very similar to
Hot podcaster summer.
Yeah, I think that's the noise I would make.
Fair.
Yeah.
You with that?
You were saying?
Well, we're gonna go to one of the states we're more proud to have in the union, Arkansas, and we're going to talk about an Arkansas state trooper that flipped over a pregnant woman's SUV while she was searching for a safe place to pull over.
Tell your story. Allegedly. Why is it that you're automatically so quick to accept everything that this woman says?
Well, I mean,
because she's pregnant.
Her car did end up on its roof. So basically,
I'm not saying no. I'm not saying that she didn't that her car didn't flip over. Right. I'm saying she allegedly was looking for a safe place to pull over.
So the story is Nicole Harper. She was pregnant with her daughter back in July of 2020. She was driving her SUV home on an Arkansas freeway when Arkansas State Trooper Rodney Dunn decided to stop her for allegedly driving 84 in a 70-mile-per-hour zone. He turned on his lights in an attempt to make her pull over. Harper, following what she said or thought was a standard safe procedure, moved into the right lane, slowed down, turned on her hazards to indicate that, I know what's going on, and was looking for a shoulder or an exit to pull over. But Corporal Dunn decided to use something called a precision immobilization technique, which, basically you run to the car and not supposed to flip it over, but supposed to knock
it. You're supposed to clip it.
Supposed to clip it a little bit, and flipped it over on the roof. And he was like, "Well, this is where you ended up."
Okay. Now,
yes,
if the driver is not a pregnant woman,
okay,
but a 45-year-old white male, 3 first names, gut, mustache, beard, and a child in the back seat that he kidnapped 6 months ago. Are you okay if the trooper lets that car speed away? Because the trooper is going to say, hold on a second, maybe there's a pregnant woman in that car. I'll just let it go.
Well, again, Harper wasn't attempting to speed away. She was slowing down. She had moved over to the right lane. Her hazards were on. You would think that she had indicated that she acknowledged his presence behind her and that he maybe, overreacted. And a good point here from Elisa. The pit maneuver could potentially kill the kid in the back, regardless if it was this woman driving or if it was Ted Bundy driving, either or.
So then we definitely shouldn't be doing any pit maneuvers, is what you're saying.
Well, so Arkansas seems to kind of be addicted to this maneuver. They did it 144 times in 2020, more than double the number of times the year before. And it has killed at least 3 people last year. No numbers for this year. But it seems a bit extreme for pulling over somebody that is speeding with this maneuver.
Is there any way to tie this maneuver to Hillary Clinton, the former first lady of Arkansas?
The Clinton body count did grow by 1 today.
That's all I'm saying.
So it's very possible that, Hillary was involved in some way, shape, or form.
Would it be safe to say that, much like Jeffrey Epstein, that this pregnant woman did not try to kill herself?
She most definitely did.
Could it possibly be that the pit maneuver actually missed and this one voluntarily flipped her car over?
Well, regardless, she is now she's suing the trooper, his supervisor, and the Arkansas State Police director, given the fact that this is something that they are trained to do. A wider shoulder and an exit were less than a mile away when Dunn flipped her car over.
I'm not liking this.
Which part aren't you liking?
I feel like I started this off with a couple arguments that could have been defended. And now I'm left with this is an action that's taken by overly aggressive police officers on highways.
In November 2019, there was someone that was being pulled over because they had their high beams on and decided to drive away. And so
that's a pit maneuver.
So a trooper pit maneuvered him, sending 22-year-old Brian Brooks and his car into a tree, killing him.
Use your high beams. That's a pit maneuver.
That's a dying.
It's Arkansas. What do you want? What do we expect? It's Arkansas.
So what you're saying is, if I'm hearing you correctly, if you live in the state of Arkansas, you should just go under the assumption that the state is going to attempt to kill you in some way, shape, or form.
what I'm saying is I'm conflicted.
Okay.
I'm conflicted in the sense that I feel like we need police officers to enforce the law.
Okay.
I also feel like if you put police officers in a position where they are not allowed to take actions to stop criminals, and I know you're going to say she's not a criminal, I get it, but like if you're putting cops in a position, then there's no reason to not break a law.
Well, I will agree with you to the point that yes, it is very tough for a cop to tell in a situation who was driving the car, what they may be involved in, guilty, innocent, whatever. Right. I think my point is more if someone has seemingly, yes, I mean, she was allegedly speeding, but if someone has pulled over, has slowed down, has put their hazards on, like I think this is a over the top move to make in that instance. If you're in a high speed chase and people's lives are at risk and things like that, I mean, again, I look at it like in the city of Philadelphia, for example, we have had an issue over the years with people driving SUVs and dirt bikes on the city streets illegally and everything. And
you can't drive an SUV?
Not an SUV, an ATV, excuse me, a four-wheeler or a dirt bike. Mm-hmm. And so initially when this first started happening, Philadelphia police would engage in high-speed chases. And what started happening is obviously innocent people started getting hurt because, either the ATV would crash or the police would crash or something like that. So the police just, the police chief was like, you know what? We're not gonna engage in a high-speed chase with an ATV or a dirt bike anymore because the risk to the general public outweighs giving somebody $100 ticket for riding a dirt bike in the street.
What if we increase the penalty from a $100 ticket to the death penalty?
I mean, all right, then maybe you've got something there.
I'm just saying. I'm not saying that these are my thoughts. I'm just saying.
You're just saying. Well, let's move on. We talked last week about actress Ellie Kemper from Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt from The Office.
And she is having an incredible hot podcaster summer.
She is having an incredible summer. All right.
Hot podcaster summer.
Put it in, Vin. Put it in, Vin.
So the other week, she came under fire because in 1999, she was crowned princess of the Veiled Prophet Ball, which came to find out had some racist background to it. May have been some white nationalism, some Ku Klux Klan attachment, things like that, and she hadn't come up with hadn't responded yet. She had been very quiet, and so we were waiting to see what her statement was, and so she released a statement on Instagram early last week.
And is it possible that she was just trapped underground?
It's very possible.
Is it possible that that's where she was during the week of silence?
Could be. So she said, "Hi guys, when I was 19 years old, I decided to participate in a debutante ball in my hometown. The century-old organization that hosted the debutante ball had an unquestionably racist, sexist, and elitist past. I was not aware of the history at the time, but ignorance is no excuse. I was old enough to have educated myself before getting involved. I unequivocally deplore, denounce, and reject white supremacy. At the same time, I acknowledge that because of my race and my privilege, I am the beneficiary of a system that has dispensed unequal justice and unequal rewards."
Now that sounds like something that a smart PR person typed up.
Right. It may have even been her. You don't know.
No. I think she had a crisis management team. They all jumped in. I mean, she's making Netflix money. We spoke about this.
I mean, she did mention, she talks about, the temptation of saying to yourself that maybe these people are wrong. But she does say, that at some point she realized that a lot of the people behind the criticism were people that she had spent her life supporting and agreeing with. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, I really think she owned up to what she did, even though she was a teenager. You might not expect a 19-year-old, but she said that was no excuse. Yeah. But I do think, I do think it was a good apology. My personal opinion, my white opinion, it's a good apology.
I think it ranks right up there with Marv Albert's.
Yes.
When he was arrested for biting that woman on her stomach because she would not bring another man back to his hotel room for him to enjoy the presence of.
There you go. Real quick, we do want to talk about some stonks.
Stonks.
So we our favorite stock, Labor Smart LTNC, really didn't move a lot this week, still hovering right around that 3-cent mark, but it will make us millions shortly. But we have gotten into a stock that gets hot around this time of the year, a stock called Urban One, trading under the ticker UONE. It is a Silver Spring, Maryland-based American media conglomerate. They say that they represent Black America, that they are the leading voice speaking to Black America. And so for whatever reason, it happened last year, it happened this year, when it gets close to Juneteenth, their stock price pretty much shoots up. We got in at, what was it, around $15?
We came in at 15.
Came in at 15. It closed at $20.40 on Friday. We've seen about a 25% increase so far. I mean, some people are saying this will probably go into the $40 or $50 range by next Friday. Obviously, the key is with Juneteenth being next Saturday, you want to get out by the end of market, probably on Friday. So even at 20, it goes up and down, it dips. If you can get in the $18, $20 range, it will probably go up. We feel pretty good about this. We're still holding strong. Diamond hands, as we like to say, and we're going to make some money on U1 moving forward. And that, my friends, is stonks.
Stonks.
All right, and we have it was a big week in celebrity obituaries, to say the least. Some heavy hitters. Shockingly enough, though, no one picked anyone in our death pool. So the numbers have not moved for weeks now. It feels like it's been a good month and a half since we've had any action in the death pool. So let's talk a little bit about who we lost this week. I think we go from probably least famous to most famous. Does that sound reasonable?
That works. That works for me.
So I think, there's not a child out there that does not have fond memories of the scholastic book fairs that used to take place at our schools when we are kids. Well, unfortunately, Richard Robinson, longtime Scholastic CEO, dead at the age of 84. He apparently had been in excellent health, but there's been no cause of death announced just yet. Brian, it's been a while since we've rated some deaths. Do you want to get back in and rate a death or two this week?
Sure, let's do it. All right.
So, Brian, Richard Robinson, longtime Scholastic CEO, rate that death.
I got to go D+. Did he have an effect on the world? Yes. Do people know who he is? Absolutely not. We're checking him out for the final time out of his life. D+ at best.
So I'm going to take a little different angle, and I'm going to grade it at $4.95 with a free bookmark for that passing. You like that one, didn't you?
That was a little Scholastic Books reference. I like it.
Thank you. Arthur Stotz, child psychologist and father of the Time Out, dead at the age of 97. Took a while for this to get reported. He actually passed away back on April 26th at his home in Honolulu, but just announced this past week, passing away of heart ailments. He was an emeritus professor at the University of Hawaii at Manoa. But again, he created the timeout, which parents apparently used at some point. I got a beating when I was a kid. There was no timeouts involved.
My parents would take away my stonks. For every time I acted out outraged, my parents would take one share of Labor Smart away from me on NASDAQ over-the-counter pink sheets, whatever. Symbol LTNC. Anyway, yeah, this does not rank very high. Shouldn't even be on the radar. I'm going D-.
So you're the same as the Scholastic guy, D-.
Pretty much.
All right. This one was tough to see. Clarence Williams.
What are you? Whoa! What are you rating this guy?
Oh,
timeout guy.
I'm going to go D-. I'm with you.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
All right.
So Clarence Williams III, probably best known. Well, here's a question for you, Brian. Best known as Link Hayes in the Mod Squad, or
Never
best
watched.
known as Prince's dad in Purple Rain?
I'm going to say that. I mean, obviously, I'd never watched the Mod Squad. Why? Because I was born way after. It was ever on. But I'm going to say that I knew him in other things better than Purple Rain.
Okay.
That he was in shit. What was he in? I don't know. He was in Reindeer Games. Don't forget Reindeer Games.
Right.
He was in The Silencers, which I thought he was very good on.
Okay.
Also had a role in he was in one episode of Hill Street Blues, I think you remember, where he played Lester Menley.
Okay. Janelle pointed out, what about Half Baked?
What about I'm Gonna Get You Sucker, starring the Wayans family?
What about Tales from the Hood?
What about Deep Cover?
Well, Brian, more importantly, rate that death.
Oh, I'm going to go C+.
Really?
Very recognizable, though nobody would ever be able to give you his name.
I'm going to go B. I mean, the character of Link Hayes, iconic. And just the fact that he was in Purple Rain, I think deserves a little bit more respect.
Okay. All right.
Personal opinion. Agree to disagree.
Also, he hadn't worked in over 2 years, Ron. So,
well, I mean, listen.
Keep things in perspective.
There was a pandemic, Brian. All right. Also passing away this week, former Giants coach Jim Fossil, dead at the age of 71, apparently suffering a heart attack and dying while under sedation at a local hospital near where he lived in Las Vegas. He coached the Giants from 97 to 2003, won NFL Coach of the Year in 97, and led the team to Super Bowl 35, where they would lose to the Baltimore Ravens.
As somebody who lives in the New York metropolitan area, I'm going to go C+.
Okay.
If somebody in Oklahoma does not know who this guy is.
Okay. I'm going to go C-. I agree with a lot of what you say, and I'm taking a couple notches down for the fact that he is the reason that Trent Dilfer is a Super Bowl winning quarterback.
Why do you have a problem with Trent Dilfer?
He should not be in that pantheon of sports legacy. I mean, that's fair. That Baltimore Ravens team was proof that defense wins championships.
Defense.
And this one came in right at the wire, right as we were getting ready to start tonight. Ned Beatty, dead at the age of 83.
Otis
from Superman 1 and Superman 2. One thing that he was not in Superman 3. He was not. That was Richard. That was the Richard Pryor.
Oh, that was an awful one.
But it was so good. It was.
I don't remember it well. I remember watching it being like, this is terrible. What happened?
One thing I did not realize until I was reading the obituary about Ned Beatty, his role in Deliverance was his very first movie role.
Jeez.
So coming out of the gate with the man-on-man rape sing, I mean, squeal like a pig, I think is in the vernacular of most movie fans.
Great. Absolutely. Really did a lot of work. A lot of fine work.
He was in Nashville. He was in All the President's Men. We talked about Superman. He did some TV appearances too with and Homicide: Life on the Street.
Shooter. He was in Shooter with Mark Wahlberg.
Shooter with Marky Mark, Jerry. What else was he in? Gator. Oh my God. White Lightning. These are some horribly classic 70 films. Stroker Ace, another horrible 80s movie with Burt Reynolds. I mean, come on. And he was in Network too. So I mean, he was.
You know what movie he was also in?
What's that?
Life, with Eddie Murphy, Martin Lawrence, and somebody we were just talking about, Clarence Williams III.
You are correct. Very nice, my friend.
Thank you.
What else do we have this week? Anything else to discuss?
I think we've got. Oh, what are you watching?
Oh, what are we watching?
Let's close it out on what are you watching?
All right. I started watching the series Sweet Tooth on Netflix, based on the DC Comics series of the same name. Brian, I see you're not aware of this show.
I'm all about DC Comics. Fuck Marvel.
So it is based on so basically it is a pandemic, a sickness that starts to kill off most of the people on the planet. And at the very same time, people start giving birth to hybrid babies, hybrid between human and animal. And it follows the story of one of these hybrid children.
Don't you think that everything we've gone through over the past 15 months, we can just kind of put aside global diseases?
I think you got to keep it front of mind. Oh, very good point. Thank you for that, Janelle. I also caught episode 1 of the new Marvel series Loki on Disney Plus.
You have a Disney Plus account? I didn't realize.
Oh, yeah. No, it's great. I really, I encourage everybody to get a Disney Plus account if you don't have one of your very, very own. But yeah, the episode 1 of Loki, fantastic. Like my beef again.
Hold on. Should I watch it so we have something to talk about?
I think you might actually enjoy it.
I'm going to watch Loki.
All right. One thing that was great about it, so WandaVision, I thought you kind of had to wait till like episode 3 or 4 before it really kicked in. And I think the same thing with the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. I think you had to be about 2 or 3 episodes in before it really got its footing. Loki as a TV show just came right out of the gate, just nailed it. Just a great piece. And Owen Wilson's in it. I mean, who doesn't like Owen Wilson?
Owen Wilson's in it.
Owen Wilson is in it. Or is that Luke Wilson? I get them all confused.
Owen Wilson is, wow.
Luke
Wilson is the I'm here for the gangbang.
There you go. Then Owen Wilson it is, playing Mobius M. Mobius in the show. Just watch the show. I think.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, please do.
Did you read Marvel comics as a kid, or do you just somehow know who all these fucking characters are?
Well, you know what it is? Like there's so much subtext to the show is that like after you watch an episode, like I'll go online and I'll read about the stuff that I just literally, missed all of the Easter eggs and the visual clues and everything. So yeah, you get to, after you read up on it, you get to know a little bit.
Okay. All right.
Wow.
All right. Wow. I will be watching Loki.
All right.
So it comes out when? Every Friday?
Every Wednesday.
Every Wednesday. Okay, so so I have 2 episodes to watch by next week.
You will have 2 episodes by next Sunday.
Sunday.
You know what I kept having in my head? Like when we lived in Albany, it's called the Times Union Center now, but it was the Knickerbocker Arena when we were there. And they used
to careful with the pronunciation. It's very, very dangerous territory here.
They used to do the monster truck shows there, and I just remember like Sunday at the Knickerbocker Arena. You'll pay for the whole edge, but you'll only need. Oh wait, you pay for the whole seat, but you'll only need the edge.
Hey, do you remember when we went to see the arena football game at that arena?
Yeah.
God damn, was that a fun day?
Yeah, maybe we got kicked off college radio after that. But anyway,
we deserved it.
We did.
We deserved it.
Brian, what are you watching?
Oh, this week was the start of the Tribeca Film Festival, and those kind people were very nice enough to authorize the Ron and Brian podcast to have virtual press credentials, which provides us to what I learned today was not everything as that's part of the Tribeca Film Festival, as apparently we are now no longer expecting to see the Anthony Bourdain documentary, but there's still a heck of a lot of other things that you can watch. Earlier this week, I'm not supposed to mention I watched it, but fuck them because they're not giving me Bourdain. I will talk about it. I watched a excellent documentary about Brian Wilson, the writer of most of the Beach Boy classic songs that we all know. A lot of modern day interviews with him about growing up in that musical household, the troubles and tribulations he went through, the loss of his brothers, and then the 6 years he spent drugged up in bed.
Nice.
Also, earlier today, I watched a 90-minute documentary, Larry Flynt for President, which is a documentary apparently in 1984, when Reagan was going up against Walter Mondale. Larry Flynt announced that he was running for president and had a filmmaker following him the entire campaign, well, whatever campaign it was. So it really goes over this, his rise, his battles for free speech, legal battles. He actually did time in jail, went to a mental hospital, all because he felt that the First Amendment was something to be fought over. Enjoyed it quite a bit.
Good. So put that on your watch list when it comes out.
Yes.
And maybe the Anthony Bourdain documentary, but we won't know.
I think that's on. I think that's going to stream somewhere. I hope one of us has access online to. I think it might be HBO.
Did you watch In the Heights? That came out on HBO Max this week.
No, I did not. It should I have?
I don't know. I'll catch it eventually.
I'm not sure I'm ever going to catch it. I'd rather watch West Side Story.
Fair enough. Anything else this week before we wrap?
Absolutely. We appreciate everybody watching this show. We appreciate everybody who's just spent the past 70 minutes with us. For those people that are not listening to us live, go to Apple Music, go to YouTube, wherever you get your podcast from, the video, whatnot. Subscribe, review, like, comment, whatever you have. Show some interaction with the episode. It helps boost our profile inside of the algorithm. For those that are currently watching live right now, in about 18 minutes, we're going to do something that we like to call After Dark. It is on our Patreon. It's behind a paywall. So we set aside about 30-40 minutes of material that we theorize might get us kicked off of YouTube. Because we are streaming, it's not quite Facebook friendly material. You can't show nudity. I'm not going to show my feet pictures here. I am willing to do that in After Dark.
Nice.
So that's one thing that we do for the people that are kind enough to open up their wallets on a monthly basis to help us out. The podcast is not free. It's one of the things that we like to, this is a labor of love. But that doesn't mean that it's a free labor of love. There are some costs associated. So I like the fact that there are people who have said, listen, here's a couple bucks a month. Hopefully this will help defray some of the costs that you have. And we reward them with some of our spiciest and sauciest stories of the week. And when Ron drinks a 7.0 or higher ABV, that's when he starts talking about his personal life.
That's right. All right. Well, let's get wrapped up. Let's get ready for some more Hot Podcaster Summer.
Hot Podcaster Summer.
And
so good.
Maybe we'll make that noise on the After Dark. Brian, anything else this week before we roll on out of here?
Love you, buddy.
Love you too. Thank you for joining us on this Sunday night. Remember, you can catch us now Sunday nights, 8 p.m., and we will catch our Patreon subscribers in a few minutes. For everybody else, have a great week.
Thank you for joining us on the Ron and Brian podcast. We're live each week, Thursday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch. You can find prior episodes, links to our social media, and everything else Ron and Brian at ronandbrianpodcast.com. See you again next week.